we probably started to take our eye off the ball a little bit in terms of our staff development training side of our business. We'd always been very strong in that area, but we'd focused in different areas of the business, and it had started to slip in that area, and it came up through the audit process that we were falling behind. We'd taken our eye off the ball there. As a consequence of that, we engaged a HR consultant plus Agri-Food Skills to do a review of training needs analysis, and that's identified training gaps. So we're putting some of our supervisors through Certificate 4 in frontline management programs. We've revamped the job descriptions of our managers to link that more directly with our strategic plans and objectives, and really tighten that area up. And so that's one really good example, I think, where somebody's got underneath, you've got a training procedure in place, and here are the records underneath the drivers behind the business. Another one in the last 12 months, we've certified for the first time to the ISO 14064 for greenhouse gas monitoring. And for the first time, we had a definitive measure of what our greenhouse gas load was. There was two things that came out of that to mind. The first one was it wasn't anywhere near as high as we thought it might be, because we run a lot of refrigeration plant. Secondly, though, it identified where we were generating greenhouse gases, and for instance, in the lighting systems in the auction selling hall, by a simple process of replacing the lighting systems that we've got in place, we get a payback, I think, within 2 years, and we drive our greenhouse gas emissions down by 3%. So that's it goes straight to the bottom line, plus it makes the staff feel good about they're doing the right thing. The audit, to me, and I may not have explained it well earlier, but to me, it's not a test to say you comply. It's almost a reminder, hey, are you keeping your eye on the ball? If I had the choice for our systems to be audited, say, less frequently, I think I'd knock it back. We get our systems audited every 6 months, and some people say, oh, why do you get it done so often? Surely with your track record, you could move to an annual audit. Don't think I'd go there, because having the auditors come in, another set of eyes, it's like, you could be walking along your local street and walk past a signpost every day and not know it's there. Somebody else comes and walks along that street and sees the sign straight away. And so I see the audit as being, that's where the value is, not with the tick and flick. They're also a good defence mechanism when things do go wrong. We've had instances where there may have been with work cover, for instance, somebody had rung up once and complained about, it wasn't one of our staff, but somebody on site, and the way they'd been driving a forklift. Actually, the timing was perfect, because when he turned up, we had all of our team in one room, or the relevant ones of the team, in a room with a screen up with our forklift risk assessment on the board, and we were workshopping it as he walked through the door. But the approach from WorkCover, immediately they saw we had systems in place, how can we help you, not how can we penalise you? And that's very reassuring.
When I think about this, I think about it in two aspects, because I think there's the external aspect and the internal. So externally, first of all, our biggest clients are Rio Tinto and BHP Billiton. To them, certification's almost required. It's become the industry minimum, if you like. And for them, it provides a level of comfort that we have a minimum standard of system in place. So, and interestingly, that we're seeing more and more of that in the last 6 months. In the tenders that we've responded to, we've seen an increase in the number of questions we've been asked about our certifications, about our national management system. People are actually asking, describe to us your national management system. Now, even 12 months ago, you never saw that kind of question in a tender. So there's a very significant commercial value in dealing with those big customers who have, a detailed understanding of what it means to be certified. We're triple certified, so that means something to them. And I think, it's becoming the pass-go ticket for doing business with those big providers. If you look at it internally, I describe it as the backbone of the company, the certification system, because it's really the framework that everything hangs off. So, all of our policies and procedures come from, because we're triple certified, we actually have an integrated management system, so we combine the 3 systems into one, and it becomes the backbone that everything hangs off. So from a governance point of view, it provides assurance to the senior management team that those processes and procedures are in place, and that they then assist to govern the way in which we do business. So there's a level of comfort not only to our customers but to our senior management as well. Also, internally, I think the real value, and this was the significant reason why we wanted to change auditors, is it drives continuous improvement. So you have the standard, but it's not something that's static. So we changed auditors because I didn't think the current ones were tough enough, to be honest. So we wanted to be challenged, and it's through the certification system and everything that flows from that we derive our continuous improvement, and at the end of the day, that makes us a better business. The high-risk site that was audited as part of our recertification, it was the only site that had non-conformances, which were subsequently rectified in time for recertification. But that was interesting in the context of the whole business, because there were all states except Queensland who were flooded, were audited. So it was interesting that site had some non-conformances. And that's an issue in itself, but that's become quite important because it drew my attention more closely to that site, and there's been an incident since, which when you put those 2 things together, I've actually gone to that state, met with the state manager and said, hey, I'm concerned about this particular site. So it was a combination of that, and that site had been audited many times before. Because it is a high-risk site, it gets more than its fair share. Now, the people before hadn't raised any issues, so the fact that the guys that you provided to do the audit on that site had a much better operational understanding. They raised a significant operational risk, and it was reasonably particular to that site because it related to hazardous chemicals management. That brought it to my attention, and together with the other pieces of information, enabled me to do some more thorough research in and go, yes, we do have reason for concern there. And I've then instituted an additional piece of work on that site, and I'm now requiring them to meet a higher standard because of the nature of the work that they do. So that's sort of just triggering, hey, hazardous chemicals of a quite extreme nature was just the trigger to go, right, that's something I haven't probably thought all the way through enough. So that's been very useful, and will have a much more lasting impact on our business rather than just a 2 or 3 day audit. So that's been really good.
In terms of bringing NCSI as our service provider, at that time we had a lot of chaos within our business, where it was the integration process happening at that time. So the Bata part of the business were using one system, and Bata was using another system. And the audit process actually forced us to integrate those systems as quickly as possible in terms of having one system nationally. And with that push from the audit agencies and for compliance, we actually improved our systems. And a classic example in terms of how we can measure some of the effects of the system is we were averaging at the time of the integration on one site, which I would take as an example, our biggest site, which produces about 130,000 birds a day. We were averaging 60 complaints a week for Woolworths. And currently, we average less than one a week for that site.